So, you're starting a nonprofit. And if you're like most founders, the word budget probably brings to mind, these complicated spreadsheets and a whole lot of stress. But today, we're going to look at it in a totally different light. I want you to think of your budget not as some chore, but as the single most powerful tool you have to actually bring your mission to life.
You've got this fire, right? This passion, this incredible idea, and this deep-seated need to make a real difference. That energy, that's your fuel. It's absolutely what's going to get you through those tough early days. But turning that passion into an organization that can actually last and change the world, well, that takes a little more than just raw energy.
And that is exactly where the budget comes in. It's the roadmap. It's what translates your amazing vision into a concrete, actionable plan. This is the document that shows you, your board, and all your future supporters the actual path from point A, your starting idea, to point B, a thriving, impactful organization. It really is your strategic guide.
Okay, let's get into the why. Why is this one document so incredibly critical, especially in your first year? Believe me, it is so much more than just tracking dollars and cents. It's really about building this solid foundation of credibility and trust with pretty much everyone, from the IRS all the way to your very first owner.
See, your budget is doing 4 jobs at once. First off, the IRS literally requires it for your 501c3 application. It's your proof that you've done the financial homework. Second, any funder you talk to is going to ask for it to see if you're responsible with money. A solid budget can literally make or break a grant application. Third, it's an absolutely vital tool for your board, helping them make smart decisions about what's actually possible. And finally, it's your own internal North Star, a baseline to track how you're doing and make adjustments on the fly.
All right, let's talk about the first half of any budget, the money coming in, revenue. Now, this is where so many new nonprofits make a huge mistake. They confuse wishful thinking with a real financial plan. And as the slide says, and you should remember this, hope is not a strategy. I love this quote because it is so direct, and it's basically the golden rule of nonprofit budgeting. If you can't put a name to it, the specific foundation, the specific donor, the specific fundraising event that's going to generate that income, then you really shouldn't put it in your budget. It's all about being conservative and basing your numbers on actual evidence.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly, the 2 paths. Over on the left, you've got the realistic path. It's grounded in real commitments, money you know is coming in, and grants you've actually researched and know you're eligible for. Then on the right, well, that's the wishful thinking path. It's full of vague hopes and big numbers from unknown sources. For a nonprofit that's built to last, the choice is pretty clear, right?
So you're probably wondering, okay, where can I realistically expect money to come from in year 1? Great question. You start with individual donations from your inner circle. We're talking your board, family, friends. Then you look for small grants from local foundations, the ones that are known to support new groups. You could also do some modest fundraising events, but, and this is so important, remember to budget for the net income. That's the money you have left after you pay for the venue, the food, everything. And finally, you might consider earned income, but only if you have a really solid plan and you know who your customers are.
All right, let's flip the coin and talk about the other side, expenses. It is so easy to get scared by costs, but I want you to reframe that. Think of them as the necessary investments you have to make to achieve your mission. This isn't just spending money. This is the price of your impact. Now, before you can even think about your cool programs, you have to cover your operating expenses. As this slide says, these are the costs just to keep your doors open. Think of them like the rent and the electricity for your house. You have to pay them just to keep the lights on so you can do all the good work.
Let's look at some real numbers to make this feel less abstract. First up, business liability insurance. You should plan on spending somewhere between $500 and $1,500 a year for this. And trust me, it's non-negotiable. It protects your organization, your board, and you from all sorts of legal risks. Next, accounting and bookkeeping. Now, I know it's super tempting to try and do this yourself to save a little cash, but investing in a professional early on is going to save you from massive headaches down the road. Seriously, it's an investment in your own peace of mind. Now, funders have this general rule of thumb. They want to see that most of your money, usually around 75%, is going directly to your programs. But, and please listen to this is a huge but for new founders. Do not panic if your year 1 numbers don't look like this. Startup costs for things like legal fees and insurance are naturally going to be higher at the beginning. That is totally normal. What matters is showing you have a plan for that program percentage to grow over time.
So we've talked about money coming in, money going out. how in the world do we actually assemble this thing? Let's walk through a super simple, actionable 4-step plan to get your first budget down on paper.
Here it is, your 4-step process. Step 1, plan your activities. And I mean be specific. What will you actually do this year, not what you hope to do someday? Step 2, project your revenue, but only based on those realistic, identified sources we just talked about. Steps 3, estimate all your costs. Do your homework here. Research everything from program supplies to bank fees. And finally, step 4, review and revise. Get your board to formally approve it, and then be ready to adjust it as the year unfolds. It is a living document, not something carved in stone. Okay, before we wrap this all up, I want to leave you with some quick, memorable tips. Think of this as your cheat sheet for avoiding all the most common mistakes we see with first-year budgets.
Let's just run through these really quick. Do treat your budget as a living document. Look at it quarterly. This helps you adapt. Don't just set it in January and forget it exists. It's actually okay to plan for a small, manageable deficit. It shows you're being realistic about startup costs. But don't project some massive funding gap you have no idea how you'll fill. And, for your own sanity, do group small things into categories like office supplies. You do not need a separate line item for every single pen and paper clip. So let's end right where we began. I really want this to sink in. Your budget is not a financial prison. It's the exact opposite. It is the narrative of your mission, just told in the language of numbers. It is the story of the incredible change you are about to create in the world.
By planning realistically, by thinking strategically, you're not just making a spreadsheet. You're writing the first chapter of your organization's success story. So the question I'll leave you with is this: what amazing story is your budget going to tell?